The water is still, a mirror reflecting the ancient moss-draped oaks of Florida. It holds the warmth of the sun and the silent promise of a peaceful afternoon. A gentle paddle dips into the surface, disturbing the calm, sending out widening rings that catch the light like liquid diamonds. Cynthia and her husband Glenn glide across Lake Kissimmee, a world away from the noise, the stress, the endless rush. They are in their element, a tranquil moment carved out of a busy life, a shared breath in the heart of nature. But beneath the surface, the peace is a lie. The stillness hides an older, colder truth. Something watches, something born of this dark water and the primordial mud at its bottom. A creature that has ruled this land for millions of years, its instincts honed to a razor's edge. It doesn't see a couple enjoying a peaceful day, it sees an intrusion, a shadow passing overhead. It sees a threat. And the moment that canoe drifts over its hidden form, the serenity of the day will shatter into 1,000 jagged pieces. The water will boil with a force that defies nature, and a sound will rip through the air, a scream that will echo across the lake and into the eternal silence. Because in this place, the beauty and the beast are one and the same. And sometimes, the beast wins. They say you can't outrun your past. But what if you can't escape your present? What if the very ground you stand on, the very water you've always found solace in, suddenly turns on you? It's a question we often ask ourselves, a primal fear we bury deep down. The idea that a single moment, an instant of pure, unpredictable violence can change everything. It's the story of Cynthia Diekema, a life lived fully, beautifully in harmony with the natural world, only to be extinguished in a way no one could have ever imagined. It's a story of love, of nature's raw power, and a reminder that even in the most serene places, the wild is never truly tamed. It's a terrifying thought, that the thing you love can be the very thing that takes you away. This is a story about a quiet day on a Florida lake, a day that began with a soft breeze and ended with a desperate struggle. It's a story about a monster from the deep and the love that tried to fight it off. It's the story of a devastating loss and a terrifying truth we all must confront. No matter how safe you feel, some forces are beyond your control. To understand the tragedy, you have to understand the life that came before it. Cynthia Diekema was more than just a name in a headline. She was a mother, a grandmother, a wife. She was a lover of nature, a seeker of quiet moments. At 61 years old, she had built a life rich with experiences, grounded in the simple, beautiful things. She wasn't an adrenaline junkie or a thrill seeker. She was an ordinary woman, living an extraordinary life filled with love and purpose. She and her husband Glenn shared a deep and abiding bond. They had been together for decades, a partnership built on mutual respect and a shared passion for the outdoors. They weren't strangers to Florida's wild heart. They had paddled countless miles on its rivers and lakes, watched the sun set over its sawgrass prairies, and felt the whisper of the wind through its cypress forests. For them, the wild was not a threat. It was a sanctuary. It was a place where they could reconnect, not just with nature, but with each other. Glenn, a man of quiet strength, found his own peace in these excursions. He worked a demanding job, and these canoeing trips were his and Cynthia's escape hatch. Their routine was simple and comforting. Pack a light lunch, fill a cooler with water, and find a hidden corner of a lake where the world couldn't reach them. The rhythm of the paddles, the gentle lapping of the water against the hull, it was a form of meditation, a shared silence that spoke volumes. They knew the risks, of course. Everyone in Florida knows about alligators. They are a part of the landscape, as common as palm trees and Spanish moss. You learn to respect them, to give them a wide berth. You see them sunning on the banks looking like ancient, motionless logs. You know they are there, but you never truly believe they could be a danger to you. It's a quiet, subconscious agreement. You stay out of their way, and they stay out of yours. The alligator is a modern dinosaur, a living fossil that has outlasted nearly every other creature from its era. The American alligator, Alligator mississippiensis, is a powerful and resilient predator. Adult males can grow to over 14 feet in length and weigh over 1,000 pounds. They are ambush hunters, capable of a stunning burst of speed and power from a resting state. Their jaws are a weapon of incredible force, capable of crushing bone. And their most terrifying move, the death roll, is a horrifying display of raw power designed to dismember prey. But alligators are not typically aggressive toward humans. Attacks are rare, and fatal attacks are exceedingly so. The vast majority of incidents are the result of humans feeding alligators, which causes them to lose their natural fear of people, or a human invading their nesting territory. They are territorial animals, especially the large males. They patrol their domains, and they do not tolerate intruders. Lake Kissimmee is alligator country, the third largest lake in Florida. It's a sprawling, shallow ecosystem teeming with life. It's a perfect habitat for alligators. Plenty of food, warm water, and hidden coves for nesting. The alligators here are big, healthy, and numerous. It's their home, not ours. And the one Cynthia and Glenn encountered that day was a veteran of this wild world. An animal over 11 feet long, a behemoth of muscle and instinct, its mind a simple primal equation: protect territory, find food, survive. There was no build-up, no slow burn of warnings. This wasn't a case of a bold alligator stalking a camp or a boat. This was an instant, a flash of violence born of a sudden, startling proximity. The canoe, a silent vessel, drifted over a hidden predator, a mistake measured in mere inches. It wasn't a warning ignored, it was a line crossed unknowingly. Cynthia and Glenn were not foolish. After hours of paddling, they soaked in the peaceful silence. They were experienced paddlers, well-versed in the unspoken rules of the Florida wilderness. They were in shallow water, just over 2 feet deep, near the mouth of Tiger Creek. The water was clear enough to see the sandy bottom, the submerged vegetation. It was an area they knew and loved. But what they couldn't see was the massive shape lying motionless beneath the surface, camouflaged by the water and the shadows. An ancient predator, its instincts honed over 100 million years, was startled by the unexpected pressure of the canoe above it. The disruption was a trespass. The reaction was pure instinct, a sudden violent panic, a defensive lashing out. The canoe's journey ended not with a gentle landing on shore, but with a sudden, violent upheaval. A tremor ran through the fiberglass, a shockwave from below. It was the first sign that something was terribly wrong, a sound like a muffled explosion, followed by the sickening tilt of the boat. The world, which had been so steady and predictable just moments before, was now a chaotic tumble. The afternoon sun was high, baking the surface of the water. Cynthia and Glenn were just talking quietly, maybe about dinner plans, maybe about a bird they had seen. The canoe was their sanctuary. Then everything changed. A sudden, jarring lurch. The boat bucked violently, a force from below a solid weight against the hull. Glenn, caught off guard, instinctively leaned to counter the movement, but it was too late. The canoe tipped, and the serene world dissolved into a frantic, splashing chaos. The water that had been so peaceful moments before now swirled and churned around them. They both went into the water. It was a surprise, an indignity, a momentary shock of cold. But they were competent swimmers. They were not in danger from the water itself, but they were in danger from what was in the water. Cynthia, by a terrible, cruel stroke of fate, landed directly on top of the thrashing beast. The alligator, already in a state of agitated terror from the boat's disturbance, now had a new, much more immediate threat on its back. The creature's primal brain registered only one thing: something was on me. It reacted with a speed and ferocity that defied its size. Its massive jaws snapped shut. The sound was a wet, sickening crunch, a gasp of pain from Cynthia. Her body, soft and vulnerable, was no match for the vice-like grip of those jaws. The bite was to her torso, a strike aimed at the center of her being. The shock, the pain, the sheer unimaginable terror must have been all-consuming. Glenn, just a few feet away, saw it happen. The water thrashed, a geyser of white foam and spray. He saw the black scales, the flash of a reptilian eye, and the unmistakable shape of the alligator's head. And in the midst of the chaos, he saw his wife, her face contorted in pain and fear. The love of his life locked in the grip of a nightmare. His mind screamed, "No, not her, not like this." He didn't hesitate. He knew he was no match for a beast of that size, but the instinct to protect, to save, to fight was stronger than any fear. He lunged toward the alligator, his fists flying, his body a frantic weapon against a wall of prehistoric armor. He hit the alligator, he kicked, he screamed. He tried to pry its jaws open, to tear his wife from its grasp, but it was like trying to move a mountain. The alligator, a creature of pure ancient power, held its grip. Then came the roll. The alligator's body began to spin, a horrifying, violent corkscrew. The death roll. It's a maneuver designed to dismember prey, to tear it apart with sheer rotational force. Glenn was flung aside, his body thrown from the vortex of the attack. He watched, helpless, as the churning water and the spinning form of the alligator pulled his wife under the surface. The last thing he saw was her hair disappearing beneath the dark, opaque water. The last sound he heard was the splashing and the fading echoes of his own desperate cries. Then, there was only silence. The silence of the open lake, a silence that felt heavier, colder than the deepest ice. He was alone, floating in the water that had just consumed the person he loved most in the world. For Glenn, the world had shrunk to a single, desperate task: get help. Shaking and gasping for air, he managed to right the overturned canoe and clamber back into it. His hands trembled on the paddle, but he paddled with a superhuman, frantic energy toward shore. He didn't know how long it had been. Seconds, minutes. But it felt like an eternity. He had to tell someone. He had to bring her back. He reached the bank, his feet sinking into the muck. He stumbled to his phone, his fingers fumbling with the keys. The 911 call was a blur of frantic, choked words. "My wife, an alligator, she's gone." The dispatcher, calm and professional, tried to get him to slow down, to give a location. He could barely speak. The trauma was a heavy, suffocating blanket. Within minutes, the sirens began to wail in the distance. The sound was a mix of relief and dread. A Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, FWC airboat, a high-speed vessel with a large fan on the back, was the first to arrive. Then came local law enforcement, their faces grim, their movements quick and efficient. They found Glenn on the bank, a man in shock. He recounted the story, his words a broken, repetitive loop. The canoe, the thrashing, the bite, the roll. The details were seared into his memory, a permanent, horrific film playing on repeat. The search began immediately. An FWC helicopter, its blades thrumming, took to the air, its powerful lights and cameras scanning the surface of the lake. From above, they could see what the boaters on the water couldn't: the telltale signs of a disturbance, the path the alligator had taken. It was the helicopter that finally spotted her. A grim, heartbreaking discovery. Cynthia's body, tragic and still, was located and recovered from the water. The horror had come full circle. The search was over. The recovery began. The scene became a hive of activity. FWC officers, their faces solemn, spoke to Glenn and the other first responders. They began their investigation, mapping out the incident, taking measurements and looking for signs of the predator. An official report was being compiled even as the sun began to dip below the horizon. The news spread like a wildfire. "Woman killed in alligator attack." The headline was stark, terrifying. A story of a peaceful afternoon gone wrong. A reminder of the wild, untamable nature of Florida. The FWC immediately dispatched a nuisance alligator trapper. This is a special designation for alligators that have lost their fear of humans or have become a threat. The trapper, a veteran of these situations, knew what to look for. Alligators are creatures of habit. They often stay in the same area. Within a few days, a massive alligator over 11 feet long was captured. It was a male, a large, powerful specimen. The trapper and FWC officials were certain it was the one responsible. The size, the location, the behavior, it all matched. As a precaution, a second similar-sized alligator was also captured. The FWC wanted to ensure there was no risk of another incident. The community was shaken, and they needed to know the threat had been neutralized. The autopsy confirmed the cause of death. The powerful bite, the trauma from the death roll. It was a clear, brutal picture of the attack. But the report also painted a picture of a woman who had fought back, who had been in the throes of a desperate struggle for her life. The details were grim, but they were also a testament to her strength. The media coverage was immense. Local news stations ran stories for days. The national networks picked it up. Cynthia's face, smiling and full of life in an old family photo, was plastered on every screen. People who didn't know her mourned her. The incident became a talking point, a warning, a cautionary tale. It also sparked a debate about alligator management in Florida. Was the population too high? Should more be culled? The FWC issued statements reminding the public that these attacks are extremely rare, devastating losses, but not a sign of an impending crisis. They emphasized that the vast majority of alligators are not a threat to humans. For Glenn, the world was a different place. The peace he had once found on the water was gone, replaced by a deep, hollow ache. The canoe, once a symbol of shared joy, was now a painful reminder of the last moments of his life with Cynthia. He was a survivor, but he had lost everything. He was a witness to a horror he would never be able to forget. He gave a few brief statements to the media, his voice filled with a quiet grief. He described Cynthia as a wonderful woman, a beautiful soul. He chose to remember the life she lived, not the way she died. But the images, the sounds, the feel of the water, they would be with him forever. Nature is not a theme park, it's not a docile backdrop for our lives. It's wild, it's beautiful, and it's brutal. We build our homes on its edges, we canoe on its waters, we hike its trails, and we do so with a quiet, unspoken belief that we are somehow separate from it all, that we are above the primal laws that govern the natural world. The story of Cynthia Diekema is a stark, heartbreaking reminder that we are not. We are part of the food chain, part of the ecosystem, and no amount of civilization, no amount of technology can change that. We can coexist with the wild, but we can never truly tame it. And sometimes in a place of perfect peace, the beast is waiting. Glenn now stands on the shore of Lake Kissimmee, the water a calm, indifferent mirror. He remembers the day, the sun on the water, the feel of the paddle in his hands. He remembers the silence, the shared smiles. And then he remembers the thrashing, the horror, the silence that followed. The lake holds his memories, good and bad, a silent keeper of a love story and a tragedy. He looks out at the water, and he knows something now, something deep in his bones, that beneath the surface a monster still sleeps. It's always there, always waiting, and you just have to hope that it's not waiting for you.